Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Amir,
Salman,
and Shara.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes towards creating more and better content. Visit us at patreon.com/Khandaan podcast.
Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. My name is Asim Bernie and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts Amrita and Sujoy. Hey Amrita, hey Sujoy.
hello.
Hello, everybody.
We're back with a new episode. We've got tons of things to talk about. I think we wanted to talk about a few things that we watched, but then also still want to... I think abhi tak Pathaan hazam nahi hui. I think we need to talk more Pathaan, right? Did you guys watch that amazing interview on Film Companion with Siddharth Anand, the director?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. No.
He is probably the most likable Bollywood director I have ever heard interviewed. Because usually, like, even if it's Rajkumar Hirani, you are like, well, I can kind of spy a little bit of douche. But this guy is like super normal. He's just like, you know what, like I like these things and then this is what I'm doing. And I don't know, like I feel like everybody in that film was just super tight and super close. And they were just really happy to be doing what it is that they were doing, right from like Adi Chopra to Sid Anand to Shah Rukh, John and Deepika. Like I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode when we were talking about Pathaan, but I have never heard John talk about any of his co-stars the way he talks about Deepika. Like he loves Deepika. He's like, she's such a nice girl. I love her. I love her dad. I love her mom. It was super cute, yeah. So,
but truth be told, Amrita, how many interviews of John have you actually listened to?
That is also true.
No, I really enjoyed that interview because I think Siddharth Anand is definitely winning me over. I think I was quite cold on him for the first few movies he made. But three things changed. I didn't know he was actually related to Mukul Anand, who's actually one of my film directors. Like, what the hell? It's his mama or his chachu or whatever. I was like, wow. Secondly, he said Meri Jung is his favorite movie. And I was like, oh my God. My guy. Meri Jung.
I mean, let's not forget not only Mukul Anand, but also Tinu Anand.
Who's Tinu Anand? Is they related?
Tinu Anand.
Yeah, the actor.
He's his son.
No, his chachu.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, good. I mean, Tinu Anand, no disrespect. He's made some really good movies, you know? So I had a good time watching that one. I liked how they were trying to corner him to get a few ideas about what the sequel will hold and all that, and he was being very, very tight-lipped. We're going to be talking more about Pathaan for sure. But I wanted to first plug something. Amrita, maybe you should do it, right? We're starting something new and we have a nice giveaway with it too.
Yeah, so we're doing a monthly newsletter because we realized that we have these, giveaways every so often. And we didn't want to make it a Patreon only thing. Patreon is quite separate. And also with Twitter being the way it is, we just wanted a reliable way to connect with everybody and make sure that you know the things that are, like on offer basically. So we've done this before, right? Like we did for, hilariously enough, for like Thugs of Hindustan was like one of our big international giveaways, right?
Yeah, we've done it for Sweet Dhaga, we've done it for Thugs of Hindustan, so we've done quite a few of those, and we're hoping to do more. And I think also it's a good way to communicate more information about meetups, things that are happening that we're doing around that. Sometimes it's good to have a calendar or like an email with every information, and I feel like social media is scattershot. Some of our audience is on Insta, some is on Twitter, some have shut down Twitter. So we thought this might be a good new avenue to do that.
So we're not going to choke up your emails, mainly because none of us have the time. And we're still sort of in the process of slowly finding our social media manager, which we've been talking about for like half a year now, but like we haven't quite gotten around to it. So what we are offering is basically a monthly newsletter that will give you updates. It's a good way for you to find out like who are the guests that we had on the show, what are the giveaways that we have on offer. We'll also maybe like, we haven't quite made up our minds like what else we're going to be including in the newsletter, but I think there's going to be like merch. I think we might give you access to certain extra content that we are repurposing from Patreon after a certain, like Patreon is always going to get dibs, right? I'm sorry, you guys, like that's going to happen. There's always going to be a 2-tier system, but we do a lot of like fun things on Patreon that maybe you guys could maybe get through the newsletter. So it's going to be on Substack. We're going to put the link up on all our social media channels and also in the show notes of this episode. So all you need to do is go there and like subscribe, and like we're not going to sell your information or anything. Like we're pretty safe that way. Like who are we going to sell it to anyway?
GDPR compliant.
Right, we are GDPR compliant even after Brexit. Yeah, you can just like sign up, and the cool thing is that we're going to start with the giveaways, right? Like, so you want to tell them about that, Asim?
Yeah, so we have 2 Blu-rays of the movie Bones and All, starring Timothy Shalimar and Taylor Russell, and this is directed by let me pronounce this correctly, Luca Guadagnino, I think. I mean, he was the director of
Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, famously. So this is kind of follow-up. It's with Timothy Chalamet. We have 2 Blu-rays to give away, and we'd happily give them away to people that sign up to the newsletter. So the information will be in the show notes of this episode. Sign up, and you can get a chance to win one of these Blu-rays.
We're going to be announcing this consistently over this month, and then basically at the end of February, what we are going to do is we're just going to pick like 2 names at random, and then in March we'll basically the first week of March we'll just reach out. We'll like announce the winners, but we'll also reach out to them and like tell you that you've won whatever it is. Maybe we'll do like a live drawing of the names on Patreon.
That could be fun.
That would be fun, right? Like, because we're trying to do more live streams on Patreon. And if this is good enough for YouTubers, then it's good enough for us who are not YouTubers. But we could do like little things on Patreon.
Yeah, we were going to do a live stream today, but Sujoy was like, "Man, nahi nahaunga. I'm not going to wash my face." Kasam khali thi. I don't know what was going on, Sujoy, but
No, I'm definitely not video ready today. Like I look rough as hell, man.
It was a rough weekend for Sujoy.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Let's get into the show a little bit.
Yeah.
What did we watch? Amrita, Sujoy, you want to kick it off? What did you watch this week?
Oh, I started watching Class, the new Netflix series, which is a remake of Elite, which is a Spanish TV series, or also a Netflix show. So this is on Netflix, and I think it's a Netflix India original. I could not complete episode 1, to be honest. It is boring as hell. That's my review. So I think it starts off with a death in the school, and I think the story of the show is going to be told in a flashback. And this guy who is from the lower part of the Delhi society, he's being interrogated by Delhi police. Very slumdog kind of a vibe, and then he's like, they're questioning him like, how does a boy who belonged to this part of Delhi go into one of the richest, one of the most affluent schools of Delhi, which is called Hampton International? And then he's like, I got scholarship, my school got burnt down and he got his way through, and there were three of them who got selected into this Hampton International on the basis of scholarships. And then it kind of is a flashback of how they are trying to integrate within this really affluent society, and all of them who look down upon these three. And then I don't know what else happens, but it was very much like, oh, okay, these 15-year-olds doing sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Just boring as hell. So I kind of switched out after that.
So Sujoy, did he get a scholarship because he's a Kukkad Kamalda?
Yeah, oh my god, I didn't even make that connection. But yeah, if Karan Johar was to make this would be colorful and song and dance and everything, and this had no fun or joy in this. It felt like another a spin-off of Delhi Crime in a way.
Oh wow.
Yeah, very drab, very just bland.
I've literally not heard anything about this show, that it even dropped, who's in it, who's made it.
I think there was a lot of social media hype. I think Karan Johar sort of posted all the cast members who were being cast as the young members of class, but then after that, kind of tapered off.
Okay. So you're not going to continue watching it?
I don't think so. No, life's too short.
Okay. Well, that. And that's on Netflix, right?
It is on Netflix.
Yeah. So, I mean, if people do enjoy it or finish it, let us know on newpodcasting@gmail.com that Sujoy is wrong. Put that in subject line. Sujoy is wrong.
I would be like, be more specific, because I'm wrong about a lot of things. Yeah. There's another Netflix movie that came out called Vad with Sanjay Mishra and Neena Gupta that I'm really interested to watch, but I haven't got around to watching that, but I will.
That looks dark, man. And
yeah. But yeah, it's got Sanjay Mishra and Neena Gupta and Manav Vij from Lal Singh Chaddha. So I want to watch it, but I haven't got around to it.
Yeah.
Maybe
anything else you watched?
No, I just watched reruns of Schitt's Creek. But other than that,
one of those weeks. Yeah. Amrita.
I've been watching Cinema Marte Dum Tak on Amazon Prime. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Also, I really loved that they gave Kanti Shah the superstar treatment. Like, he doesn't show up until like episode 3, and everybody just keeps name dropping him until then. They're just like, well, Kishan Shah is all right, but he's not Kanti Shah. Like, Kanti Shah is like on a whole other level. So it's really funny, and then Kanti Shah shows that he gets a proper superstar key entry, he emerges from the shadows, and then he sits down in this giant armchair, and he's all just like, I'm a bad man. But it was surprisingly frank. Like, I haven't watched the entire series yet, I'm only halfway through, but it was surprisingly frank in that like Kanti Shah talks about the most famous story about him and Dharmendra, which is that, he got Dharmendra to film these scenes where he was exercising. And then he somehow edited in this woman underneath underneath Dharmendra, and then released it in Punjab, which is like Dharmendra's like home state. Like, everybody is like, Dharmendra's are like Punjab ki shaan. And then they just saw, and I think he was like, this is before he became the MP from Gurdaspur or whatever, but that's who Dharmendra is in Punjab. And then people from Punjab like called up Dharmendra and like, what the heck are you doing? Like, doing soft core. And Dharmendra like apparently beat up Kanti Shah. And Kanti Shah is just like, I didn't do it, but if I did it, I totally had to. Like, he's totally like Darvoing it, and it was like really funny. But yeah, I really enjoy the series so far. Like, you've watched the whole thing, right, Asim?
I have. The way you were describing Kanti Shah, it made me think of, remember Melrose Place? When you had like, and Heather Locklear, and featuring Heather Locklear, and she came in later, and she was the manager. That's like Kanti Shah is the Heather Locklear of the. This might be such an old reference. People do not know what I'm talking about. Our listenership is way too young for Melrose Place, I think, unfortunately. Yeah, I really loved it. I'm glad you're enjoying it too. I think I just like watching documentaries about cinema, and I just don't feel there have been that many good ones. And this is not necessarily the cinema I kind of zone into. I don't get like that much pleasure out of these kind of movies, but I really enjoyed how the kind of it's kind of like very how do you say labor type movies, right? It doesn't have any fancy glamour. It's just like make it, get it done, earn your money, on to the next one, right? And I like that kind of approach. It's like stripped bare of any kind of elegance towards cinema. It's very like goal driven, and I kind of appreciate that. But yeah, I really liked it. The only thing I'm still annoyed about is that we don't get to see the movies that they actually made, because that's what I wanted to see. Like that part, I've not heard.
Oh, I thought they showed the movies at the end.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping. I went to the end until episode 6, and I was like, wait, is it in related content? Is it like, how do we get to watch these movies? And that's not there. So I was like, they really missed a beat there, unless it's dropping later on. But again, it's not been announced. I've not heard anything about it. So I'm just like kind of left like with a unsatisfied feeling.
I mean, all the ridiculous anthologies that all these streaming platforms showcase, why can't we have an anthology of these four guys,
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
Yeah, so that's what I was kind of hoping for, but I like because they make like I don't know how far have you gotten, Amrita? Like probably quite far if Kanti Shah is already in it. You're episode 3, 4 in, right?
Yeah, so I'm like 3 episodes in, and I've just gotten halfway through episode 4.
Yeah. So I was hoping maybe the last episode would be the movies themselves, but then they have a chat with like there's a whole red carpet event happening, and like they're getting interviewed by Arjun Kapoor. But the movies are not shown, so I was like, okay, that's kind of a weird decision. I don't know why they did that.
It was so like sad but also wholesome when they were told that they can make a movie again, and they start calling up all the people, and they're just like, you'll never believe it, they're gonna give me money to make a movie, like it hasn't happened in 25 years, and I'm gonna make a movie again. I mean, these guys, like these are the people whom I respect much more than like your random schmo who shows up on Twitter and says, Pathaan ki itni collection hui, and like Reddit bros who are just like, well, why doesn't India make more Nolan movies? Like, I don't give a crap about any of those people, but I like these guys are like in there in the trenches doing what they love, and they do it entirely because they're doing it for money and to survive, which is something that everyone keeps talking about, like this is how I run my house, and they're not living very luxurious house lifestyles either. But like they're just salt of the earth people, and it really gives you a good sense of what this industry is. Like when we say Bollywood, it's a catch-all term that means a wider industry, and it embraces a wide range of people. And when I hear, smug 20-somethings talk about like how Bollywood needs to die, I'm like, there's an entire economy of people who depend upon that industry. It just makes me so mad when I see someone like these people, and you don't need to respect their movies, although I do personally. But you can't take away the fact that they work hard and that they really love what they're doing.
And also just how many actors are in those movies that we know that I mean we're going to be reviewing Gupt later on, like half of those actors are in these movies, so it's kind of crazy how close both industries are.
Oh yeah, for sure, because there is something called the Producers Guild in Mumbai for people who are associated with the movie industry as such. So everybody who is like spot boys and camera assistants and people who are working in the machinery that produces a movie, and they are founding members, and and they have been in those societies and associations for generations, right? And so it really takes a very bad, just one bad movie for them to go from, the leagues, and then you get deteriorated into these, the outskirts or the peripheries of the actual movie industry. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
That's what Farah's talked about before, right? Farah Khan,
Yeah.
like she's talked about how her dad used to do rather well, and then one movie went south, and then he gambled one more time, and that's it. They were out
Yeah.
living in the slums.
Yeah.
Like it's wild just how precarious their lifestyle really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also really like the story of the lead actress there. I think her name is
Sapna?
Sapna. Yeah, Sapna.
Yes, she's a legend. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even watch these movies growing up or anything, but I knew who Sapna was.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that Kantisha's wife?
Yeah. Ex-wife, I think. But like,
okay.
it's I mean, I'm not gonna take it away from you. Like, you need to, when you watch Cinema Mate Dam Tak, like you will. I don't know if they address it later on in the series,
don't.
but
They don't.
okay, they don't. Okay, so I think she broke up with Kantisha, and then she started dating Kishan Shah.
Wow.
She's there's a scene in like one of the episodes that I watched where she's getting ready for a shot, and she just starts like trolling the sound guy who's just minding his own business and is just like standing there without anything to say. And she's just like, should I drop my cleavage a little bit? Like, what do you think? Like, should I like change this? Should I do this? And the guy is like petrified of saying, like, even looking at her. But it's just, you get such, like, that's why I like this series so much. Like, you get a really good sense of who these people are, and they're all so Bombay Sujoy. Like, I know like Asim liked the series, but like I feel like if you've been to Bombay and you've interacted with like proper Mumbaikars in Bombay, you really understand like who these hustlers are, because that's who they are. They're hustlers. And there's like a meteor to the way that they interact with the world and engage with it. And even though they've all been out of the game for like 25 years or whatever, you can see them just falling right back into those patterns. And it's amazing. Like, I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, it's also kind of like the world of Kamyab. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
It's kind of like strugglers getting a new chance, and I'm glad you watched it, because I feel a lot of times when something drops on streaming, like there's a bit of a noise for the first few weeks and then it dies down. But I think it's a really good movie. I mean, it's a really good documentary, and people should check it out on Prime. Anything else, Amrita?
No, I don't think I was watching anything else.
Yeah. I wanted to plug one thing that I watched, and then we're going to go into the Q&A. But I watched JOYLAND. I got a screener for that this week, the Pakistani movie directed by Saim Sadiq. And I also interviewed Saim Sadiq, which I'll be adding after this episode, I think, if the editing is done. And if you want a video version of that interview, head over to our Patreon. You can become a subscriber for $1 and get access to the video content. But the movie itself was amazing. Like, everybody that listens to Khandaan has this idea Asim only wants to watch explosions and, item numbers and stuff like that. Although this movie does have an item number, but this is like not the movie necessarily people would think that I would love, but I absolutely love this movie. It has like all of the feelings that, like, it takes your breath away, because it paints family dynamics in such minutia that you are in there straight away. And it's like, man, everybody's just constantly in your space. You cannot have a conversation. You cannot have a moment without somebody just like barging in, and that kind of feeling. And I think what's also interesting, the way the movie has been portrayed, it's like, it seems to be like a romance between a cisgender male and a transgender person, right? But that's not what the movie is actually. They do a little switcheroo on you. And the way Saim said it, he said it's basically a family drama as you watch on TV, Pakistani content is about family dramas, about, a son that's not in line, one son that wants, the patriarchy and kind of the effects of it, all of these things that you see in family dramas, but there's like a slight edge, a slight elevation, a slight difference to it. So I absolutely love this movie. It is, I wouldn't say like necessarily it's a family movie, but I think everybody in the family should watch the movie. And I also don't think it's as it's nothing offensive. I mean, I might be a bit more liberal than most people, but there's nothing offensive in it that will, corrupt your morals. It shows all of the people with a lot of tenderness. And even individual relationships between certain people are shown with a lot of tenderness. And I think this kind of shows what our society and our culture is like. When we're speaking one-on-one, it's actually quite nice and loving. But when the society dynamics, or especially when men come into the conversation, then it becomes very dangerous and very toxic. And I think the movie does that really, really well. And it's also just beautiful. Like one of those movies where every shot is a painting. It's kind of that movie. So I absolutely loved it. It's coming out the 24th in Feb in the UK, and it's also got now an India release, so people in India can watch it from March the 10th, and I know that the US will be coming soon. So if you want something that in that kind of genre, I strongly recommend Joyland, and I'll be adding the interview with Saim at the end of this episode.
I just want to say that I really want to watch Joyland, but I wouldn't really count on its release in India because that's what they said about Mola Jat. And where is Mola Jat, guys? Where is it?
Right.
Where is it?
Yeah.
It's not in India, I can tell you that much. So I don't know if that's actually going to... Why isn't it at least on streaming? Anyway.
I think they're just pushing it they won like a Cannes prize, right? So it has value to show it in select art theaters and get your revenue that way. I just don't think streaming gives them enough money, and I think that's even why Mola Jat is holding off. If he can, I think they're re-releasing it in the UK, and they can still make more money on a re-release than they actually can by giving it to Netflix or Prime or whatever. I think unless. Mola is maybe different, but Joyland, I'm not sure if they can. Should it go to Mubi or how that pricing works? I don't know.
If they want to re-release Mola Jat in the UK, may I suggest the end of April? I feel like that would be an excellent time for you to re-release Mola Jat in the UK.
Yeah.
The end of April, guys. The last week of April. That would be amazing. April 2023. I want to be clear.
Let me try to DM Mahira Khan, although she seems busy because she hasn't been able to reply to the other DMs I've sent her. So she must be busy, right, guys? Right?
I'll DM Fawad, you do Mahira, and between the two of us, we'll make something work.
We'll make it happen. So yeah, I mean, the news today was Joyland is releasing, but who knows if it releases or not. But if you can watch it, it's a really, really good.
I did see it was a PVR release in India, so. Yeah.
Shall we get into the Q&A a little bit?
Yeah.
We got a ton of questions by our patrons, which is amazing. If you want to ask us a question, you want to interact, sign up at Patreon. The link is in the show notes. We split them up in two sections. One seems to be a lot of Pathaan questions, and then just random 90s nostalgia questions. So let's try to do as many as we can, okay? This was a nice note. This is not a question, but it is a correction, which I also like. Geetika wrote us that the review you mentioned of the protester watching the movie was actually a parody from a comedian and an SRK fan. He is on Twitter at Saeed Irfan Ahmed. This, of course, does not take away anything from his hilarious review. So I just wanted to add that the review we mentioned was actually a spoof. So, I mean, great job. They got me tricked, and I had a lot of fun with that. So, first proper question. Lena says, I saw a YouTuber post a video speculating the future spy universe scenarios, including one scenario in which they cast Amir as the evil mastermind pulling political strings and pitting the spies against each other. In my wildest dream, take all my money. Make that happen. What do you feel what the future is? I think we were talking, they were trying to corner Siddharth into some potentials. Like I think they spoke about a prequel between John Abraham and Hrithik Roshan, and then also about a tie-up between Katrina Kaif and Deepika Padukone. I don't think either of those are happening. I just don't see it.
I think Sid was definitely interested in the Katrina Deepika one, which anybody with half a brain cell would be, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen. But I know Lina is like a huge Amir fan, so of course she's full on into this. But honestly, like the two things. One, don't take anything said by a YouTuber with anything other than like several sackfuls of salt, because nobody knows anything, but YouTubers least of all. And also, I don't know, you guys. Like I like the idea of Amir in the spy universe as the villain, because I think he'd be pretty great at it, honestly. And we could see all the three Khans and Amir on screen, maybe. But I honestly feel like Asim's suggestion for Rekha would have been like amazing. Or somebody was talking about Govinda, and I would pay so much money. Like Govinda would be amazing in that role.
But my idea was, if it's Rekha, it would be like Charlize Theron in the Fast and Furious universe, that kind of setup. Or if Amir was in it, I would think of who's the Javier Bardem, like an ex-spy that got betrayed and his face is all messed up and screwed up because of some gas he inhaled.
Oh, okay.
Skyfall. Skyfall. Yeah, that would be like really cool as Amir. Like somebody who. A lot of times those spies are the ones that have, been left behind by the government and whatnot. But I think that could maybe work. But sorry, Sujoy, you were saying?
I was saying Govinda kind of played a negative role in Kill Dil, and I really enjoyed that, even though that movie didn't necessarily work for me. But I really like Govinda in it, and to think of Govinda come back as a villain, I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, he won't do it because his ego is too big, but it would be amazing.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah. So Viral says, would you say the success of this movie guarantees a success for Jawan and Dunki? Also, do you think it threatens Amir and Salman's future releases to match this level of success? And he also wants us to discuss the future of John Abraham, as this is the biggest hit of his career so far. Do you think this makes him a bankable actor again after flops like Equivalent Return, Satyamev Jayate 2 and Attack?
No. That's that one really quickly, Vero. No, I don't think so.
Spoiler alert, nobody is a bankable actor in this day. Not even Amir, with all that has been happening in this country and the state of Bollywood, nobody's a bankable actor anymore. Like if a boycott campaign can, pull down an Amir and a Kareena movie, what does that say about us? But like... John Abraham, definitely not. Like he's way down in that league of actors. And as far as success guarantee for Jawan and Dunki, also no. Because there were so many things and forces working in unison for Pathaan. No, the success of Jawan and Dunki are solely dependent on how good those movies are. Because now, like there was a drought in Shah Rukh movies for the last 4 years, and this was the movie that broke that silence, right? And it would be interesting to see if that momentum continues with Jawan and Dunki, but I don't think their success is necessarily guaranteed. And Amir and Salman
also, there's just too many releases from Shah Rukh this year. Like I don't know why they're doing it that way.
I'm not complaining about that. As long as these are good movies.
Yeah, my fear is Jawan more than anything. Like I think it's the one that I worry about, and I do think Dunki should be postponed. They should release it next year.
Yeah.
I think Pathaan required a lot of thinking, like a lot of analysis and strategy that people around Shah Rukh did it for him. I mean, Shah Rukh obviously, but Shah Rukh seems to work on emotion too, right? So I think even Dunki will have that. It'll be in that Raj Kumar Hirani universe, so he understands what he's doing. Jawan, I just don't know. I just worry that just might not be Shah Rukh's zone. That might be not like, a project that works. But I also have not seen any Atlee movies, so that's fine.
It is definitely a wild card at this moment.
Yeah.
I actually have the reverse feeling. I feel like Jawan's going to be like really good, and because one thing that Atlee understands is stardom. So I feel like he's definitely going to play that up. Like, it's not going to be like a thoughtful actioner or any of those things. Like, it's not going to make political statements or things like that. He's not Paranjit, but he is pretty good at giving the fans the service they want. So I'm not that worried about Jawan, but I do think Dunki needs to be postponed to and also, like, Dunki is just like a weird star cast. Like, why is Tapsi Pannu in it? Like, nobody was asking for Tapsi Pannu with Shah Rukh, like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Moving on, you want to do the next one, Sujoy?
Yeah. So Bolly Lister writes, can you please discuss about how amazing Deepika looked in Pathaan, or is it too shallow? I mean, that was the whole intention of the production team, guys. Like, they put in the money and the production and the makeup and the costumes and the cinematography and the choreography, everything to make Deepika look hot, and they succeeded. I bought the ticket for Besharam Rang, I mean, also for Shah Rukh, we're not going to lie, but I mean, how hot was Deepika? And we are shallow.
But is it hard to make Deepika look hot, though? Like, who has not been able to do that? Like, except her stylist. Like her stylist in real life. But I mean, she looked amazing. That gold bikini should be like, imprinted. And then also, they should frame that orange wrap that she dropped. I see a lot of people complaining about the ice skating sequence, and I thought that was amazing. I thought that sequence was awesome. Like, I don't know, I thought
she just flies out of nowhere onto the ice, and I was just like, yeah, go get it.
Yeah. I had no issues about this ice skating sequence whatsoever. I thought it was totally amazing, and she looked great. And even cornrows, she didn't even get cancelled for that. Like, she pulled it off when Kim Kardashian couldn't. Like, nobody's talking about her getting cancelled for that. So yeah,
I especially liked her in the smoky makeup in trying to get the imprints of the Russian uncle
with her gold legs. Yeah, that was amazing. She looked amazing. Yeah. Everything was amazing.
Oh, can we, before we head any further, can we talk about like that one part that I think Sujoy was about to say something and then I just completely rudely walked all over it. But do you think Pathaan's success is going to affect Salman and Amir?
It's funny, like, the thing that I'm realizing, like, these guys, like these 5-6 names we have, they are such established names, like nothing can really affect them, I think. Like, at the moment, it seems to be Shah Rukh and Ajay are on the rise, and Salman, Amir, and Akshay are a little bit down. Like, Salman, I would say, is unsure, but I think definitely Akshay and Amir are bottom barrel. And 2 years ago, that was a completely different story, right? Like, and it's just like these guys come and go, but I don't know, like, I think if they can find a groove, and I think there's a few questions about Amir a bit later on too. I just don't think they're going away. I think, like, this idea of beating the box office collections, that's just like a Twitter game we play or a Reddit game we play, but does it actually matter? I don't actually know, man. Yeah.
But have you guys been seeing the Main Khiladi Tu Nari reels on Akshay Kumar's account? Like, he's dancing with Salman on that song. It's so wholesome, but also like Bhai without CGI de-aging is a bit. I feel so. Yeah, I feel old.
Yeah, what did you mean with that? You feel he's looking much older than he?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he still looks good though. Like for his age, like I think Banda's still fit, you know. But
Absolutely.
I do think it was like Akshay was like, जितना भाई से हो पाएगा उतना ही करवाएंगे. Garden mein,
Bhai is not moving much.
yeah, but Bhai's there for Akshay, you know. That's kind of cool. Like he's always there for everybody, you know.
Yeah, so I like it's so wholesome when Bhai just shows up for all his bhais. You know, I was watching Om Shanti Om the other day, and the Diwangi came, and like Bhai shows up with Saif and Sanju, and then Bhai is also then dancing with Dharmendra. Like that's such a wholesome scene.
And he's so excited, huh? It's like the best part of it. No. Okay. Next one?
Yep. Should I read it?
Yeah, sure.
So SK writes, I've been thinking ever since Pathaan became such a blockbuster, does Shah Rukh have to keep doing films of similar scope and scale going forward? His next two releases are in this category. It seems audience will not give a chance to mid-sized films when it comes to him. I'm someone who has watched and will watch him try anything and everything. And I remember Amrita saying she would like him to do a mature romance. And before Asim protests, it doesn't have to be boring. Of course, assuming he is inclined to do such projects, which maybe he is not. Thoughts?
Amrita, since you were name checked, what do you think?
I don't think he'll be doing anything that I particularly want to watch. Well, everyone knows what I want. I want, like you said, like I want a mature romance with like maybe Tabu, yeah, or I'll even take Vidya, or if you want to really make me happy, then Juhi or Madhuri.
I was going to say bring Juhi back.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But I don't think he's going to do any of that for a long time now because his audience is the literal worst. And they punish him every time he tries to do something different. So he's probably going to make like something that's very crowd pleasing for a while at least. Yeah, that's
Can
how
I also add, like, I just don't, like, I think this is funnily enough something that Siddharth Anand mentioned in that interview, that he just doesn't have any idea for rom-coms or romantic comedies. And I could, like, really feel it, like, what do you write about? Where is the confusion, right? Or where is the problem between people being together? And it's easy, like, either you have, like, the Imtiaz Ali kind of setup that also not working with or without Shah Rukh. It's not worked at all in the last few things. And otherwise, you have maybe something like, like the Rajkumar Rao, Ayushmann Khurrana, Bhumi Pednikar type of movies, which I just don't think Shah Rukh would really work in that world, right?
No.
So I just don't know what you can, like, I think he's tried. I think with Jab Harry Met Sejal was that trying to do that. Even Dilwale was trying to do that, like in a more commercial space. But I just don't think we have the writers that have, something to say about love at the moment, unfortunately. Sujoy, any thoughts?
I'm okay with whatever I'm getting, man. I really enjoyed Pathaan, so I'll be back to watch Shah Rukh do a blockbuster anytime. But like, yeah, our Shah Rukh Tabu movie, hell yeah, I'm up for that. But I don't think we are getting that.
Yeah, the Madhuri, bring back Madhuri. She's there. She's working. Like there's tons of things. Like divorced parents getting back together, or like they were together in college, and then they're finding each other later on. Like there's stories that can be told, but even while I'm saying it, it sounds boring to me. Unfortunately,
yeah, it feels like what Netflix India has been churning out.
Exactly, it's hard. It's hard to make romance again in that way.
Like my dream is basically that they can do like a Ticket to Paradise sort of thing with Shah Rukh and Mads, and that would be like it doesn't need to be much. It's like when Ticket to Paradise came out, like people were just like, well, like where's the depth in this movie? There is no depth, bitch. Like it's just about two pretty people that we enjoy watching on screen who have amazing chemistry, and they are in this beautiful island and they're just doing like goofy shit while being attracted to each other. Like that's literally it. That's the movie, and that's all I want. But I do think that like from going to the theater and watching things and also watching all the reactions online, Shah Rukh's like obviously he has like different fan bases, but the women that love him will come out for him even if he is an action hero or if he's doing romance. They might be sad that he's not doing the romances, but they will come and cheer him just as much if when he's doing his fan servicey, action movies. And so I don't think he's going to be making niche projects, so to speak.
Let's move on. Final one. We have to do quickly this one. This was from Netflix. It's been ages since I watched Salman's Tiger movies and War, so I honestly would have to rewatch everything to be able to rank them. Did you see Agent Vinod? I like that movie, and I was surprised it hasn't been a franchise. Did you guys like it? I actually recently rewatched Agent Vinod. And I have to say, it didn't work for me the first time. I was hoping it would work for me the second time, and it still doesn't work entirely as a movie. And the reason is, and it's not Saif's fault, it's not Karina's fault, and it's also not Sriram Raghavan's fault. It's that I think they tried to, when Saif is interested in a project like this, be it Agent Vinod or Phantom or even Go Agon, he pushes the subversion too hard that it becomes unacceptable for Desi audiences.
Yeah.
If he just takes like 5 steps back, it would be perfectly fine movie. But I think they just have to push it a bit too far, and I think his barometer is not at the right level of audiences to make it work commercially. I still don't think Karina should have been killed in that movie. Spoiler, but. Sujay, you go maybe. What do you think of Agent Vinod? And then,
I mean, I have zero memories about that movie, right? Like, I think it was very inconsistent in tone. I didn't know if it wanted to be a Bond or a spy game.
Yeah,
like not spy game, Spy Hard. With Leslie Nielsen, it felt like it was trying to do both at the same time, and that's not a good space to be for a movie like that.
it has amazing songs though. It's like shot really well. That oneer that they have in there, it's really good too.
Yeah. So you have Rabta, but then you also have Pungi Bachakar.
Yeah.
Which is, the range of this movie.
Which was a range though. It was a big thing that I think a lot of people went to that movie because of Pungi. But yeah, Amrita?
यहाँ बॉर्डर पे अभी भी फायरिंग चल रही है.
कराची से ट्रेन जाने वाला. Oh God.
Yeah. I don't know what to say, you guys.
What is happening though? What is like he's beating her up or like beating a child?
They're like putting off patakas for some reason. I don't even know why. Today's not even like a festival day. Like I don't understand. They did puja all evening, and then I moved here because like the puja was so loud on the other side. And then now they're doing patakas on this side. I'm like, मैं जाऊँ तो कहाँ जाऊँ? One minute, let me just see if I can just move to the other room, and then maybe that would be better.
Okay.
But then
you have 4 minutes.
how will I do all? Acha, this is done. Acha, theek hai. Then I'll just say quickly. Yeah, I did love Agent Vinod when it came out. I think like Beth and I were the only 2 people who really enjoyed it when it came out. It was just like a fun update on the 70s kind of spy movies, with the formula that we used to watch. And the reason why it's not a franchise is because it was a giant flop. That's why. There's nothing more complicated to it than that. I think Saif genuinely was setting it up to be a franchise, and he would have loved to have a franchise like that. And I bet we're going to see him in the Spyverse at some point because he wants a piece of that action.
Yeah.
It's something that he's been trying for a long time, in my opinion. But no, I don't think so.
Actually, Saif could be a better foil than Amir could. Actually, he's got that coolness of him.
Yeah. Also, real menace. Like, don't forget, like Langda Tyagi, and also, the Lal Kaptan. Like, he can do menace like nobody's business.
Yeah. Okay, let's wrap it up. I think we have to keep the other questions for another thing, for another Q&A. But they're great questions. I want to kind of get into it. But yeah, I think this is it for this episode. Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ. And also don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, which comes like on a monthly schedule and tells you what's happening with the podcast, and also tells you how to get giveaways, like really cool things that we are giving away.
Like the 2 Blu-rays of Bones and All, the new movie by the director of Call Me By Your Name, starring Timothée Chalamet. Sujoy, where can people find you online?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at 9E3K, and you can follow Khandaan Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Khandaan Podcast.
Drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com, and stick around for my interview with Saim Sadiq for Joyland. And thank you for listening. Our next episode will be Gupt. Amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I had to leave that last part in because we were having way too much fun with Amrita's audio issues. I hope that wasn't too much on your ears. But now it's time for my chat with director Saim Sadiq. He's the director of Joyland, which is getting a UK release on the 24th of February. And I think a US and maybe even an India release might follow. There's a video version of this interview. If you want to go see that, you have to sign up and become a patron from $1 and get access to all of the extra content. And a big thanks for all the people that have joined up recently and all the people that joined up from the start, and everybody that's making that Patreon community so lively. So come join us. You can start from $1. Coming back to Joyland, this was an amazing interview. I had so much fun talking to Saim, and having watched the movie, I'm hoping for great things for this movie and great things for Saim later on. If you don't know, Joyland is the first Pakistani film that won at Cannes. I think they won a certain regard. They also won Queer Palm Award at Cannes, as well as a special jury mention at South by Southwest, and I mean a ton of other prizes. And also it's the first feature film from Pakistan to make the shortlist for the Academy Awards. We've already reviewed it, so you know my thoughts on the movie. Here's my chat with director Saim Sadiq. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining Khandaan Podcast. I saw your movie a couple of days ago, and I have not stopped thinking about it.
Thank you.
In a positive way.
Thank you. I hope so.
Just saying if you're unsure. I mean, like I just mentioned, I'm from a Pakistani background, but I've not lived in Pakistan. I come visit every 2-3 years, like a proper burger. But I just wanted to see, like, how was your journey as a filmmaker? How did you become a filmmaker? Because it doesn't seem that, at least, my side of the Pakistani side that I see is not very conducive to creativity. So I was like, what was the inspiration for you? Or was there a specific moment that you thought, or you saw a movie and you said, now I want to make films?
Nowhere in Pakistan is conducive to being a filmmaker. Nobody. There's nobody who does anything remotely creative in my entire family. 5 generations back and forth, none. So yeah, it wasn't a very easy call to make. It was an inevitable call, because I think I guess I was like 2021 when I realized I really don't have any other talent to, so I might as well just do the one thing that I think I can do. It wasn't like I was excelling at 5 other different things, that I could choose between football and mathematics and filmmaking. I really could just had one option. So I was like, I can only do this. Please let me do it. But yeah, there was no one particular moment, to be honest. I was very obsessed with movies as a child, as a 3-year-old. Like my whole family knew that I'm obsessed with movies. I watched we had one cassette or 2 cassettes, I think, of some old Bollywood bad movies that I used to just watch every day, because that was the only cassette we had at home, the VHS cassettes, when I was 3 or 4 years old. And since then, it just stuck with me. I just thought it was such a nice way to get away from the world and indulge yourself in a world that, wasn't your own, but, you find ways of seeing how it could relate to the one that you live in. So no, it was really perhaps the only thing I ever wanted to do, but I realized that a bit late in the day, like around 20, when I was 20.
I remember when I used to go to Pakistan, I used to have those video stores, and they used to have these DVD albums, right? And I would just memorize all of the albums, just all of the movies that were in there, just like a film encyclopedia, just like absorbing it as much as I can. But yeah,
fun. Spent a lot of time in DVD shops.
Yeah, do they still exist?
Very few.
Very few, right?
Very few. And it's sad because I think it was such a nice place. It was like a little library that you go to, and just be like, oh, these are the movies.
But I also felt there was like some sort of like kind of like a atmosphere around them. Like women weren't allowed to go. Like it almost feels like, the theater world that you're kind of showing in JOYLAND, that it's a very kind of like male-centric. These places of entertainment are still very male-centric.
Male-centric.
Yeah.
I mean, DVD shops still, it was like, oh, you can go and get the DVD and then at home, everybody can watch it.
Yeah.
The theater is like, of course, it's live entertainment. So it's like only the men can go and only they can watch it. And what's being performed is obviously only of interest to certain men. Very few women perhaps would be interested in that, or maybe they are, I shouldn't assume, but, I don't know of many women who would love to, so yeah, I mean, the places of entertainment in general are just so few. Even for the men, there are very few. It's not like, and the few that we had, sort of social outdoor ways or means of entertainment, have all been taken away from us. Like Basant used to happen, which is a kite flying festival. It was such a big thing. It was something which kind of brought communities together. It was it was a moment of fun and joy taken away. It's cancelled. It hasn't happened in, I don't know, more than a decade. Cinemas are only now sort of making a return in the past 10 years or so. They were again also taken away by many, many dictatorships, one after the other. So yeah, it's a place that starts for entertainment, and then people do weird things to seek it when you don't keep, because eventually they're going to seek it.
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting time for Pakistan too, because on the one hand you have the massive success of Maula Jat. You have Pasuri being like a global hit. Then you also have, Miss Marvel and all of these actors and filmmakers making steps in the West and making these really big projects. And then your movie, getting selected in Cannes, winning a prize. Like, what's it like being a creative in Pakistan? Is there, because also when I saw the themes of your movie, I thought, and there has been a lot of backlash within the country too, but when I'm watching your interviews with other podcasters, and there seems to be a lot of excitement and support too. So I couldn't really figure out what is the creative situation now in Pakistan for you.
It's fertile now. I do think it's fertile, far more fertile than it's ever been. And I think, I guess it's always been fertile, but there's recognition now. And it's all, funnily enough, happened in 1 year. Whether it's Pasuri, all the things that you mentioned have 1 year, and we haven't had, Pakistan as an entertainment industry hasn't had that many things happen to it in 2 decades before. And then all of these things, a song and Arooj Aftab winning Grammy and then getting nominated again for a Grammy, Ali Sethi, Miss Marvel, Maula Jat, all of these things happening in 1 year was just such a, I don't know, like a cathartic year for people who've been working for, I've not been working for that many years, but just people who've been working for so many years, doing great things, but not really getting the opportunity to break out. And this year, somehow the stars aligned. So I guess it's a better time to be here than 2 years ago. But it's tough also because, the more limelight that any one gets in the media, the more you're prone to becoming a soft target, of people know that this is something that media, television or movies are the easiest thing to talk about because they're almost made for people to talk about them, to consume them and talk about them. So everybody has an opinion on it, and everybody is, out to politicize it for whatever means that they can. And a thriving media industry coupled with a very politically unstable society is not the best mix, but I'm glad that we're thriving. Hopefully, we'll continue to do so and not fall for the political situation over and over again, which has happened.
So how has that dichotomy been, though, that you've made a movie that's had a lot of, critical acclaim. It's getting a release in the UK now, in America too, I imagine. how has the feedback been different from international audiences versus local audiences? What does one audience see that the other audience doesn't, or has there been any like input or insight that you've seen?
I mean, obviously, whenever South Asians watch it, whether it's Pakistanis at home or Indians, who've seen it at festivals, etc., or they respond to it, I guess, in a truer way, because they're able to understand the language. And there's obviously, no matter how carefully you try to subtitle a film, there's a lot lost in translation, a lot of the nuances lost, which is there just in the spoken word. And they respond to that, and then they're not fascinated by the film in the same way. They're, so they really have to just be moved by the story or not. They're not fascinated by, it's so, then what a nice gully, or, what nice clothes, because these are the clothes that they know they wear and their aunties wear and their uncles wear all the time. So they're not fascinated by the superficials. They really just get into it for the story and whether it grips them or not, and whether it feels truthful or not. And so they really are able to notice the smaller things, which I guess an international audience or a not South Asian origin audience is able to notice, but on a second viewing perhaps, but they get it on the first viewing, like a lot of women who see the film, come back and be like, oh, this film is really about Mumtaz. And I'm like, yeah, it is, and I'm like, thank you. There's a lot more surety when they watch the film. They know what this film was about, whereas an international audience is kind of sometimes a bit like confused and moved, but confused as to, like, oh, was this a trick? Like we thought it's a movie about a trans girl, but it turned out to be about this other thing. So, what happened? And I'm like, yeah, it's about all of them, but it really was, you were too fascinated by the rough story of between a trans girl and a man to notice that the film was actually also very much so about a woman who was suffering this whole time.
When I was watching the movie, I tend to not take notes, but I knew I was speaking with you, so I was just taking notes of some of the themes. Mm-hmm. And the list became so long that, you had misogyny, oppression, tragedy, but joy, sexual assault, you hit all of them. And I just find it interesting because we as a society, we don't talk, especially about any taboo topics. We don't have that discussion, right? Really, unless you're with friends or something like that. But you put so much of that in your movie. So was that a way for you to kind of excise your demons or your thoughts, or like you just wanted to put it all on paper? Because initially it was kind of based on a short story that you then evolved, right?
No, it was the other way around. I had written the script of JOYLAND, and then I made a short film just to sort of explore the world of the theater, primarily through that short film. But to answer your question, I never thought of it as trying to talk about these issues when I was writing the film. My intention was not to talk about these issues necessarily, because I was really just following the characters. And if there's a trans girl, obviously in Pakistan, she's going to face a certain amount of transphobia in a scene or two, otherwise it would not be a very authentic portrayal of her experience. But the film is not about transphobia, but the film can be on a larger scheme about one thing, which is patriarchy, and another thing, which is desire and the clash between these two, but also find smaller pockets to talk about other smaller things, which are inevitably all come under the umbrella of patriarchy. You wouldn't have sexism if there was no patriarchy. Sexism is completely a product of patriarchy. Transphobia is a product of patriarchy. Homophobia is a product of patriarchy. Our ideas of masculinity and how outdated and toxic they are also only a product of patriarchy. So for me, it was just like, there's an ensemble of people and they're all stuck in a patriarchal world, and we're following them. And of course, with their all individual subjective experiences, you'll find different ways in which patriarchy affects all of them. It wasn't that I was trying to talk about multiple issues. It was just that these characters were sort of, going through experiences which had to include, for an authentic portrayal, certain instances of transphobia or masculinities and sexism, etc.
But I also love that whenever there were individual relationships or conversations, those were actually filled with a lot of love and gentleness. But when the larger world, or especially when men came into the conversation, it turned very, very toxic very, very quickly. And it just made me think, that a lot of times, like patriarchy, also men are victims of that. So, and I thought that was such a good way that you showed that even with his friends people that have he's had a meal with, that he's laughed with, that gave him a job, the moment it flips on you. And it was, I mean, maybe you can talk to that a little bit. Like, what was it about? Is it just, are men the problem? Like, in a way, like, can we just not act correct?
I mean, men are the problem. Let's be honest. They are in a big way. They are. But I mean, I don't think it helps. I can say that in a podcast. It's an easy thing to say. It is a truthful thing to say as well, but it's an easy thing to say. But I think a film should aspire for something a bit higher than the easier thing to say, which is to the why are they the problem, and are they really the problem, or is it a system? And they're really sort of acting as the agents of that system, as the primary agents of that system. And the system is patriarchy. So let's talk about the system, because it's very easy to blame, like, oh, the father in this film is the problem. But I'm like, but that's every father in all. So you're like, what are you going to do with all these fathers? Where are you going to ship them to live a nicer life? They are going to live here. What are you going to do? They're your father. And so I think, just in terms of looking at masculinity in patriarchy, for me, it's like it's equally stifling in a very different way for men, because they are almost robbed of their ability to feel things and to be able to emote and to be vulnerable, because that very basic human need to be vulnerable is almost made as an anti-masculine trait. That if you're vulnerable, you're not very masculine, or you shouldn't cry too much, or you shouldn't, and that leads to an inability for men to form deeper connections with each other. Like the two sisters-in-law, Mumtaz and Nuchi, have an actual deep, genuine friendship. But you put the two brothers in either on a dinner table, or there's a little scene in the mosque where the brother has a very specific thing that he wants to tell his brother, to Heather, that, I saw your wife doing something, and but he can't get him to say it. He can't get himself to really say what he saw and what he's trying to say. He's like, you should take care of her. You should take care of it. He's like, I don't understand what you mean. I take care of her. What are you trying to say? He's like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And then he leaves, and he's like, why aren't you getting it? Because men have just been robbed of the vernacular to be emotional and to actually have real conversations with other men, because they're just so busy trying to prove their own masculinity and telling the other one to amp it up as well. I know very few straight men who can actually have a real conversation with each other, and many women do. And unfortunately, the perception is that in patriarchy, women are, the enemy of the other women. A lot of women further patriarchy, and that may be true in certain cases, of course, but at least, when they're allies, they're good allies. And most of the time they are allies.
Yeah, that scene was really in a way heartbreaking, because Heather actually wants to engage with his brother. It's the first time where he's asking him a question, like, I want to know what you're trying to teach me or tell me, and the brother just doesn't have the language or the skill set to even explain what he's trying to say. The other thing that I also wanted to ask you, because this is part that I felt I wanted to get more from, is the relationship between the neighbor lady and the father. Because that kind of came in, and it kind of left me without kind of like a solution, or like what happened there. And I mean, in a way, that's a tragedy of life. I get that. But why did you want to put that in as a filmmaker?
Well, I mean, I think for me, it's probably the most significant scene in the film, and it doesn't lead to a resolution, except the resolution is that they're not going to be together. They're going to continue to be neighbors, and that's it. That everybody's going to act like that one night didn't happen, and that conversation never happened that everybody has the next morning, and everybody's going to pretend that, and we're very good at that. We're a solid group of citizens when it comes to pretending and ignoring a topic. I think so. That I was like, they're going to be fine pretending that this never happened. But for me, the reason of putting it in was because I think the scene where the morning after scene where everybody's sort of done something and they all are sort of, being a bit hesitant about what's this conversation about. And then you find out, oh, it's really about this other lady. It's not about any of the family members. It's about this other lady who's really not even a big part of the film. And how the strange lady sort of speaks up and kind of says something finds the courage to say something that may be very specific to her experience about her age, but what she's really saying is resonating with everybody in the room. And yet nobody in the room has the courage. I didn't want anybody from the family to have that outwardly courage in that moment in the film to really voice, like, wait, we're doing something that makes no sense. We're doing something because it's a bit uncomfortable, but, it's fine. We can be a bit uncomfortable, and allow people to just experience some level of joy and togetherness and happiness. And if it's a bit uncomfortable for you because I'm your mother, so what? And for also because a lot of the times we think that a lot of our constructs about gender and sexuality are based on religion when it's not the truth. And I wanted a certain very particular case of like, this is a widowed woman and this is a widowed man. They are very allowed religiously to be together. Actually, it's promote, they're being the religion says that you should do that, but because socially speaking, because of their age, it makes you uncomfortable that even these people, old people have desire. Old people can be, want love and togetherness, and they want to what do they want to do? They have sexual desires. Do they want to cuddle? What do they want to do? And all of these questions about, we don't want to look at our parents as sexual beings ever, or as beings of desire, even though if they didn't have it, we wouldn't be here. So that for me, I think was just such a moment that kind of pointed out what the film was really about. It was a film about desire, and it was a film about feeling invisible for anybody who chooses to, to explore that desire for themselves, and yet they're all the same. Everybody in that room is the same as that old lady. They're all trying to maneuver the same two things.
I love that you gave her that almost in a way a hero moment of speaking up, to the neighbor lady, because in a way the movie doesn't have that many hero moments, right? Like we can be so the problem is right in front of us and we cannot see it. And yeah, I think we're running out of time, but what's next? I have so many questions, but what's next for you? Like you've got Cannes. It's going for an international release. Like, what's next? What are you kind of thinking? Where's your mind at?
Oh, a lot of travel. I'm coming to the UK for this, hopefully soon, and then for the release in UK. Then there's the US release. There's the Spirit Awards that we're nominated for. It's releasing in Spain, in India, and a bunch of other countries. So we're just, I think, until May, just doing that. What we've been doing for the past 9 months, just going here and there and just ensuring the film gets as big of an audience as possible. And I'm just thinking about new ideas, but I haven't started working on anything specifically yet. Any one particular project. No.
What do you want to say to UK Asians that are going to go watch this movie when it comes out in the UK? Because I feel, having kind of that thing where we grew up outside of Pakistan, our parents gave us morals that are 40, 30 years old, and they've never evolved. Where in Pakistan, there's been a constant evolution, at least new ideas. So we have like morals from the 70s or the 80s, depending on when our parents came over. So what do you want to kind of tell them?
I think on some level, you'll probably find, a lot to relate to, far more than you perhaps will find in any other Pakistani film that you've seen, as far as relatability and, being like, oh yeah, that's something that feels familiar. So I think, and everybody kind of enjoys seeing a bit of themselves reflected on the big screen. There's just a certain level of stigma that I think South Asian audiences stay away from when a film seems a bit artsy or serious. And I think this film is entertaining, engaging enough at the same time that, you can really, it will make you uncomfortable. I wouldn't lie, but I think it is a pretty good time at the movies. I've seen the film with a very big audience many, many times in many different cities, and it's always an audience that laughs together a lot, that, enjoys together. Sometimes they start clapping in the big song that happens. And then, of course, in the end, they get uncomfortable and they cry also, which, but it is a big theater movie experience, so don't be fooled by the fact that it's an independent film. Independent films can be theatrical experiences too.
Yeah, it's an amazing watch. I think everybody should watch it, even if there is a bit of. I'm going to recommend it to my parents. Like, I think they should watch this movie. I think it's truly wonderful, and I'm excited for what you're doing, and I'm excited to see what you do next. And who knows, when you're in London, maybe we can meet up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Khandaan podcast for acting. Girl, you're my